I'm joined in studio by co-founder Kevin Naidu, as well as trumpeter Mandla Mlangeni, to chat more about this space. A very good morning to you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. Kevin, when you started the Orbit in 2014, what was the big idea behind it? And when you reflect back today, have you achieved that which you had set out to do?
Well, the idea is that South Africa has such a rich tradition of jazz music. It's something that's globally recognized as on par or as good or even better than any other jazz, around the world. And we have quite a history of that. So with not having many venues that were featuring the music, we wanted to actually create something that had a space for that music, that had a home for that music. So that was really, part of the idea. And to have a creative platform where musicians can then we don't want to just honor the past, but also build and use that as a foundation for music going forward. Mm-hmm. So that was really, part of and a solid foundation that we felt for developing the Orbit. I have to say, yes, we are happy to some extent, but we had so much more planned and we'd like to still do. Our non-profit has just come up. And there's so much more work in taking that is there. That was always supposed to be the center of something larger, that we could start a larger sort of music movement that we want to try and encourage. And I think that's really the sad part, is there's so much more that we had planned. Yeah,
there's so much more you had planned, so much more still to be done.
Absolutely.
Only time can tell. Who knows? This is not the end, right? Mandla, for you, what did the space mean as an artist?
Well, the space, as always, is it's a room for expression, a room to actually meet new people, audiences, to actually develop your sound. To interact with more musicians, to interact with the arts community. It was an ecosystem, something that is very much lacking in South Africa in spaces, and there are not so many spaces for people to experience live music, especially in Joburg. In Cape Town, maybe there's more prevalence of that because it's a tourist city. But especially in Joburg, where access to spaces such as the Orbit are very limited. So with that, and it meant that now it meant there was more creative output coming from musicians. You saw when the Orbit was opened from 2014 to now, so many musicians were actually releasing albums, so many groups were being formed. And it's quite, it's very surprising to know that nobody actually caught onto that. Government didn't catch onto that. The cultural sector didn't catch onto that, really. A lot of people didn't catch on to that, except us, the musicians. Corporate sponsorship didn't come, media didn't come to the party. So I think we're very despondent at this moment, and moving forward, it's maybe now up to us, to the artists, to actually have our own creative autonomy, to actually create viable avenues for us to actually take our music to the people, and not just actually confine it into 4 spaces, but actually create music where it's accessible. Maybe the last challenge was that the Orbit was also very the price range many people couldn't afford. Even if you were a middle income earner, you couldn't actually watch a show every day. So now we need partnerships. We need people to come forth to actually promote our arts and culture. And it's very funny now, since the ANC is launching its manifesto, that it wants to focus on agriculture, which are all good ideals, but we were a deeply divided society. And I think the one way of actually talking to what has troubled us is through the art. It's through mainly the art and arts programs in schools. Absolutely. And I think arts education, audience development is not happening on a primary level. So I think that should be the main focus now. I think we as artists, we as musicians, should actually take the necessary steps to actually develop our audiences for tomorrow. Because I mean, if we don't, I think we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of key themes I'd like us to look at, but just in a moment. So, Kevin, when Mandla touches on the issue of accessibility and the cost of actually being able to access these spaces, some of the greatest lessons that you have learned in the 4 years that you were in operation?
Well, it's been quite a steep learning curve, actually. It's always been a difficult business, which we understood from the beginning. We set it up as more of a social enterprise, understanding that it's never about becoming rich overnight or possibly ever. It's really about something that was required And some of those lessons, of course, is getting the pricing right. Of course, you have to balance it out between trying to make it sustainable and going as far as possible, and trying to give the musicians, a decent wage as such, and obviously the infrastructure and everything that's required. I think that's really been something that we've kept adjusting and kept trying to work with, and we always gave students, for example, a 50% discount, and we really, really tried. But again, it's a privately funded business, and we only had that small pool, and the only way for us to survive was, of course, to charge for that, and we have to thank the audience, because realistically, it was a publicly funded, in a sense, as a private business, but publicly funded. It was the audience that carried it. We had no help from, there were a few sponsors that did come on board, but largely it's the public that paid for that to continue.
Mandla, you talk about the lack of support from the arts, from sort of all spheres, and you talk about making music for the people and taking the music to the people. And you also talk about being despondent
Yes.
as an artist. How do we turn the tide? I mean, 24, 25 years later, we're still talking about how the arts are not appreciated in this country.
Well, the arts, the creative economy, we haven't yet tapped into the creative economy. How do you unpack the creative economy in South Africa? How do you make it accessible? For a large part, people enjoy, particularly in Joburg, it's a 9 to 5. People work after work. What do? I mean, we're competing with DSTV, we're competing with Netflix, YouTube, so many avenues. How do you make it accessible? Because also the culture of music, also you have to look at our past. We weren't allowed at these kinds of spaces, and if we were playing these kinds of music, they were usually in dingy outside places where nobody knew. And because of the nature of the music being a revolutionary music, it was music that spoke to our suffering, black suffering. It was music that seek to challenge the status quo. So now, and it was music that also galvanized the people. So it's quite interesting to note that now in this new dispensation, the level of support that is given to especially jazz music or this kind of music is not strong enough, it's not weighty enough. And you only see it as a celebratory function when they're honoring very honored people, like much more famous people. And it's not intrinsically in the conscious or in the psyche of people. Resources, how do you create incubators for this music to be accessible? How do you, I think very much it must be part of the education system for us musicians to actually, as an income source as well, for art sector, to be incorporated into other avenues of the economy as well, in terms of actually creating jobs and actually creating level of education needed to actually equip future audiences, and needed for us to actually take what we're doing seriously. Because if you think about it, music is actually informs everything.
I can't let you go without asking you this, and I know I'm pushing it here, but what is it that keeps you doing what you do in spite of all these challenges?
Well, remembering what I'm here for. I'm here to spread the message and actually spread love. And I'm here actually to inspire other people as well, and to be inspired, and to actually share. I mean, that's the end of the day. I want to share my music, share my passion, and inspire other people through whatever odds to actually be who they want to be.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. The work that you do is important, and we wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Co-founder of the Orbit Jazz Club and Bistro, Kevin Naidoo, as well as trumpeter Mandla Mlangeni. We take a short break. We're back with more from the Moses Mabhida Stadium, where the ANC is preparing for their manifesto launch. Do stay with us.